This is a public hearing for the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. Calendar number 1 is a public hearing in the matter of the proposed contract between the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications and Neustar Inc., located at 21575 Ridgetop Circle, Sterling, Virginia, 20166, to provide services to obtain, manage, administer, and market the geographic top domain name .nyc. The contract is revenue producing in that the city will receive a percentage of the gross revenue of the sales of the .nyc TLD registrations and premium name auction fees, and is guaranteed a minimum amount of revenue share under the contract. The term of the contract is 5 years from the issuance by the city to the contractor of a notice to proceed, and may be renewed for up to 2 additional 5-year periods. The proposed contract has been selected by means of the competitive sealed proposal method pursuant to Section 3-03 of the Procurement Policy Board Rules. A draft copy of the proposed contract is available for public inspection at the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, 75 Park Place, 9th floor, New York, New York, 1007, from March 20th, 2012 to March 23rd, 2012, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., excluding holidays. Is there any testimony on this item?
The first person for oral testimony, Thomas, can you state your full name as well as your affiliation?
Oh, when does my time start?
It's on its start.
Okay. I'm Tom Lowenhaupt. I'm the founding director of Connecting.nyc. And I want to say that I'm really sorry that you guys got stuck with this project, because developing a TLD is not something that a technology agency should do, because it's not a technology resource. Secondarily, it's a technology resource. First, to figure out what a TLD is, let me give a few examples. Think about 1807, when the city was trying to figure out what to do with the streets. They came up with, after 4 years, they came up with the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. And it had some faults in it. It put the streets, the First Street to 230th Street, the First Avenue to 11th Avenue. They left out parts. They left out Central Park. It wasn't there. They didn't think of it. It also, at the last minute, they put in this other thing that was called, ultimately was called Lexington Avenue. It didn't have a name at the time. It was a structure that they put together. And that's what you were called upon to do. But you're a technical agency who should be acquiring this material, not making these plans. So if you think about, some see a TLD as a scaffold for us culture and our treasures. Sure, there are names, just like there are names to players on the New York Yankees. But it's the coaches, the trainers, owners, fans, the concessionaires selling hot dogs and beer that make the Yankees, not the names. Each and every person has a name, but it's a culture that makes the Yankees a champ. So let me tell you an interesting story about Adam Smith. Everyone is familiar with his Wealth of Nations. To some, it's their Constitution and Bible, and it's done as well in many respects. A few years earlier, he came up with something called the theory of moral sentiments, and he talked about how humans are interested in things like deep impulses of human sympathy and morality. That's all things good: sharing, loving, caring. All the most important human traits. It's possible that the .nyc TLD is an organizing force for these most important impulses. This might seem like crazy talk, but look at developments like Wikipedia and open source, and the open source movement. You'll see these as deep impulses of human sympathy and morality. It's people sharing and helping others. It's taken 250 years for Adam Smith's more human half to arise, and that might be the .nyc TLD, because now we can count and track good stuff. Imagine our city with 1,000 Wikipedia-scale projects emerging as resources like Jackson Heights.nyc, Greenwich Village.nyc, Harlem.nyc, Elections.nyc. These are resources that we need to set aside at this point. We cannot come back later on and after someone has developed these resources, evict them. That's what happened with Central Park. There were 7,000 people who moved into that area, and when they decided to put Central Park together, they evicted those people because they didn't plan properly. I'm very sorry that you folks were put in a position of planning, which should have been done by the City Planning Commission. and this is a failure at the most highest levels of City Hall to address the issue in the proper way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The agency will take it into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, Pat, can you state your name and your affiliation?
Yes, my name is Pat Lonehound, and I'm a lifelong citizen of Queens.
She's my lovely wife.
Tom's wife, yes. And I'd just like to say that the computer, as you all know, is a tool. Everyone has been using it very prolifically now. And the internet is kind of still young and has a lot of potential that we are not using right now, and some people are not thinking about right now. So what I'd like to do is encourage the city to use the internet and the top-level domain name as a public interest, and also to serve the people who are living in the city, rather than just thinking of the top-level domain name as a business interest, as it seems like everyone is doing today, where it's the same old registry, registrar kind of thing. There needs to be some planning for the public interest in the top-level domain name, and there's a whole world of it available. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. It will be considered by the agency.
Oh, the next person, Robert, can you state your name and your affiliation?
My name is Robert Pollard. I'm founder and information ecologist at Information Habitat, where information lives, an NGO in consultative status with the UN, and focused on information technology and sustainability. This is far too important a process, an issue to be addressed at this level with so little publicity and so little attention. .nyc can be the key to the digital city. It can be the gateway to a catalyst for moving us into a city that stands out among other cities as using technology to grow, become a smarter, greener city, to help everyone in the city, to build universal broadband, to make sure that services for the elderly, for whatever. And what was, again, sadly neglected in the mayor's congestion plans, it can, if used intelligently, really move people from not having to move around and be able to do so much more without having to spend time, energy, money on travel and the like. The governance issue just has to be set up as a public-private institution, fully accountable, with representation of the business community and small businesses, and I mean small businesses, bodegas, corner stores, etc. And with the education, the massive educational resources and the work there, community organizations, individuals, and there has to be a very clear policy. I mean, is Fifth Avenue by NYC available to the highest bidder? How, the value of these names is something that's been built up by the history of a community. Can someone just come and buy that and claim ownership to it? This is a new city. We have the foundations of a city that fundamentally also, again, a high priority of Metrotech, is something that can play a vital role in transition to a smarter, greener, climate-friendly city, where we move on to a carbon-free platform that offers unprecedented opportunities for education, for community civic engagement. Should be a charter for a democratic city, a city of the future. Otherwise, it's just like, what is it? It should be something that we can be proud of, we can take and show to the rest of the world that this is how a geographic name should be, what sort of representation, what kind of participation is essential. So there's no need to pursue this application now. No one else is going to be able to get that domain. ICANN will be offering that opportunity in the future. So there's no rush, time to slow down and have hearings much more broad than the one for Plan NYC, which were good, but not enough. Online framework for that. It's something that should really be actively promoted, and rather than hidden with, since again, my comments on the public hearing, the privacy, the hidden nature of this public hearing are explained on my Google Plus and Twitter post. So.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
For your testimony. It will be considered by the agency.
The last person, Jolly,
Oh, that's me.
state your name and your full name, actually, and your affiliation.
Hi, I'm Charlie McPhee. I'm the VP of the Internet Society's youth chapter. And, we know that the RFP came out for this in 2009, and that the urgency to get something done, because the deadline is April 12th to get your application in to ICANN. And so it does seem, just that it's been a bit rushed, that we've only had a few days to actually look at this contract. I haven't had a chance to look at it. But having said that, Neustar is a great company, one of the best registrants, we welcome the fact there's a deal. In the original RFP, there was the two options of a commercial or a community type TLD, and we assume that you've gone for the commercial. And we just say that there are concerns that, which have been expressed here about just selling .nyc to anybody, or whether it should be if that's to the advantage of the city. And we trust that these things will be discussed publicly. The actual application, which I understand is not really in the contract, but I'm hoping there's something in there which says that it just isn't going to be come take all. That there's going to be some kind of discussion about what the TLD is actually going to be used for.
Thank you very much for your testimony. It will be considered by the agency. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on this matter? Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for reopening. I am Gail Brewer. I am the City Council member for the West Side of Manhattan and Northern Clinton, and I am the former chair of the Technology Committee and now chair of Governmental Operations. And I want to thank DeWitt for holding this hearing, although I think it's mandated, and for taking a step toward securing the .nyc top-level domain, also known as TLD. This is an issue I have worked on for several years. I introduced a resolution in the City Council in 2008 supporting local efforts to acquire .nyc. We had a hearing on this resolution October 17th, 2008, and we heard from a lot of stakeholders, including Tom Lowenhaupt, who I think testified earlier, and who is, in my opinion, the person who's introduced this to New York City. And I want to thank him for that. The development of an NYC-specific domain name represents an opportunity for our city to establish a digital identity to help residents and tourists access local services and businesses, and I'm glad that it's moving forward. However, I have to tell you, I'm a little bit disappointed in the lack of notice to the public about this hearing and about the selection of a vendor in general. We became aware of this agreement on Tuesday, March 20th, and we haven't had a chance to review the whole contract. From what I have heard, the business side of this deal appears promising. Neustar is paying the $185,000 application fee to ICANN, as I understand it, as well as the $25,000 annual fee. Our city stands to receive 40% of revenues from domain sales and advertising via .nyc, which is all positive, but my concern, and I'm going to reiterate this, remains how this will be marketed. Increased revenue for the city is certainly important given our fiscal situation, but the first priority of .nyc needs to be to promote the interests of our city, to improve the lives of our residents, our businesses, particularly our small businesses and our visitors. I have talked to some local businesses in my district, and I'm sure Tom has talked to some in his. They're cautiously optimistic. What they worry about is concern about what will happen to their existing .com domain, and I hope that Neustar and DeWitt will assist businesses who want to transition, especially during the initial rollout period. Businesses may wish to maintain both domains and publish updates to both, and we should provide tools that make duplication as seamless as possible. Another concern raised by stores in my district is that today people often do not type full domain names into their browsers. They do a lot of Google and search methods, and DeWitt needs to consider the changing dynamics of the web and technology as .nyc is rolled out. For example, can we develop portals such as restaurants.nyc that will list all restaurants with a .nyc domain? Also, how do we ensure, this is something that I know Tom cares about too, that our local neighborhood treasures, such as our diverse eateries and shops, become part of this effort? What is the cost and benefit to them? And those are the ones, I have to be honest with you, that I think are best for tourists and certainly best for New Yorkers, and that's what we want to promote. I don't want, if Gail Brewer is here today and I move to Ohio tomorrow, which I never would, I don't want to be able to take .nyc with me, nor should a store. So thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I look forward to working on this issue, but I do think we need more notice in terms of having a good product. Thank you very much.
Do you have any written testimony
Yes, I
that
do.
you'd like to?
We will be
submit?
glad to submit this written testimony.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for testifying, and we, the agency will take your testimony under consideration. Councilman.